Hello, my name's host Eric, and I am host talking famous people, and we're talking tri-types tonight, and the Eric interpretation of tri-types and what they mean, and the way to think about it. So basically, there are three sectors, and you get one number from each sector. It is my personal opinion, in the Eric variation of Enneagram, which is as valuable as you want to make it in terms of its legitimacy. It says that your first number stays the same your whole life. For me, that's seven, and your other two numbers can change, and that you get one from each of the three sectors. Now, the first sector is how you deal with conflict. Is the quickest way to sum it up. Do you respond with anger? Do you try to make peace, or do you try to stay out of it? Those are your three options. If you respond, if you like the piao piao, then you're an eight. If you dislike the piao piao and want to fix it, make it go away, then you're a nine. If you don't want to get involved in the piao piao, you're a one. The ones are the type who are more likely to watch it and be entertained by it, but not want to participate themselves in a big argument. Nines are the kind to go, oh, this is getting angry, and then they leave the room because they go, the guy Fe gets all fucking frazzled or whatever. So, and then so that's 891. Now the next section is 234, and that has to do with how you make yourself acceptable in the world to other people, basically. It's how you deal with the possibility of shame, which occurs when you don't live up to certain societal standards. And so everybody has to have a use in some regard or fit with the existence of other people in the world. And in order to do so, they approach that by either being helpful, by being by being an achiever, or by being a rebel, individualist, one who establishes a counter position to the status quo. So you either help, achieve, or rebel. And then the last section is how you deal with the existential terror that is mortality. And the answers are either you try to understand everything perfectly so that you don't have to have any fear. The second option would be you try to nest away. You try to be safe and push away the uncertainty of existence by locking shit down in nesting fashion and making sure that you're safe and comfortable. And then the last option is you distract yourself away from the terror. You just play and want to keep busy and keep doing what feels good in the moment and not pay attention to the looming storm. So for me, then, as a 7-8-3, 7 is the playful one, 8 is the angry response to conflict, or the joining in, the pro piao piao, and then the 3 is achiever. Now, I'm a weak achiever. I'm somewhere like a 3.5 between achiever and individualist. I'm pretty rebellious still, but I understand the value and need for legitimacy as a currency in order to play properly. And so that means I've accepted the burden the achiever has to accept at some point, or I think the individualist has to accept at some point in moving to an achieving type, which is I've hit the ceiling of rebellion. There's nothing else it can offer me. And the hope is that people who are fours don't go overboard when they're young and rebel in ways that are permanent, like tattoos and piercings and stuff. I think those are ill advised in general because when you're old, you'll not be happy about it. I mean, you're not going to say like, "I'm really glad I did that." It's possible you're not going to regret it. That you'll have morphed an identity that includes that lasts all the way through to a middle age or something. But you've got to think about yourself as a being that exists for decades, and you want those decades to provide you opportunities afresh. So you don't want to be locked into choices you made decades past, decades in the future. It's very, very, very difficult for ENTPs to recognize this when they're 18, 19, or 20. Almost impossible. I have a couple of tattoos. They're fortunately on my back. Um, Regardless, All males,
Are they
18 to 20.
angel wings?
No, they're not angel wings. Uh,
Okay, sorry. You can keep talking.
an important question, though. So, regardless of that, I think that most fours will uh, ultimately morph into threes, and then they'll decide that attainment of concrete goals or tangible goals will afford more legitimacy um, than not. I guess that there's not really a good alternative to it, much though we might like it to provide one. Um, Certainly, I'd prefer it were otherwise. I'd prefer that. I prefer. I mean, I don't know. I have nothing. I have nothing to prefer or complain really about. I have as much freedom as anybody could reasonably expect to have, and even so, I feel impatient and burdened by my responsibilities sometimes, and it weighs heavily on me. I mean, lots of things weigh heavily on me. The 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 fact that I've attained a certain amount of legitimacy on this in this YouTube endeavor means that I have to weigh more carefully the words I say. It means I have to understand that people afford me more weight in what I say than they might afford somebody else, which is a weird thing to encounter in life after not being afforded any weight at all for your whole life, basically. So, I mean, it's a weird phenomenon for me to experience. It's something that can be challenging to navigate. Regardless, that's not about Enneagram per se. The Enneagram point would be that if you see yourself first as a rebel, second as uh, you got helper, achiever, or rebel. What do you see yourself more as, a helper, achiever, or a rebel? And all of us do a little bit of all three, but in your fundamental positioning to expectations, do you want to help somebody else in their endeavors? Do you want to get others to help you in yours? Or do you want to stay out of the achievement business? That's really the 2, 3, 4 question. So once you've answered that, then you answer 5, 6, 7. Do you think, anticipate, and understand your way out of fear? Do you nest, or do you um, play? Distract yourself away from the fear. It's a challenging question for us to even understand because I think for sevens particularly, we don't note the fear as fear. We just see it as that undefined darkness over there. And then so you're a rebel play or something like that. And then the last one would be, are
Why do
you
you
a
wh-
fighter, a peacemaker, or a stay out of it? Or
why do you think it's so hard for sevens to pinpoint things as fear? And
well, I'd say it's because we habituate early on the response of responding to negative emotions antagonistically or suppressively. So we'll tend to, if we feel something, we'll respond to it either by suppressing the feeling, and how do we suppress it? We don't actually suppress it. We actively pay attention to something else that's pleasant, so we don't have to hear it. We don't have to listen to it. Or we're antagonistic towards the feeling, which will come out usually in a way of fighting. Right now, if we're if we're managing our hypocrisy well, this is why ENTPs are so obsessed with hypocrisy, because we want to make sure that when we're fighting, it's because we're fighting for reasons that are logically sound and that are on the side of justice. And we want to believe that when we're just experiencing feelings that aren't qualified by legitimate cause, then we won't fight those fights. It's a tough line to walk because we don't really know our own feelings, and it's hard to tell when exactly we're fighting for the right reasons, when we're fighting for the wrong reasons. Good night,
what
Kitkatz.
are what are some things you think that logic, if any, that logic can't solve?
Well, I mean, I think there's lots of things that logic can't solve, but there's an alternative besides just logic and feelings, which is managing magical thinking.
Which you do with.
Well, with religion or faith in a higher power, if you want, that's one way of going, or in any number of momentary faiths in various magics of the world. The world's full of magics if you choose to be aware of them.
Interesting.
You could actively deny them if you'd like, is the other alternative. The problem is you have to have good instincts as to when and where the magics are ought be invoked and when and where they ought not come into play. See, I default to not looking for the magics, and so uh, it's something I have to remind myself to do periodically, which is better than the other way around.
There's a song called Looking for the Magic by the Dwight Twiley band. Dwight something. You should look it up. It's a good song.
Hmm. Perhaps I shall. Any other questions about Enneagram? I got a little off topic here as we were doing this, but
That's the fun part.
I think I circled back around and covered the key thesis well enough. Joseph has correctly articulated the 891 division in the chat for those of you who were asking that question. Thank you, Joseph. And I may be eventually shifting from 8 to something else. I don't know. I feel less mad, although I still freak out periodically. So maybe I'm just fooling myself. I don't know. Sometimes somebody will make an argument, then I'll just start going, and it's not really intended or anything. Just kind of happens.
I don't have a lick of 8 in my body.
You don't have any 8 in you.
I don't think so.
So when you see conflict, you try to calm everybody down and make peace with everybody.
Once you explained it like that, I honestly related more to the 1
Try to
about
avoid
like
it.
just avoiding it. Yeah, well, like a good example is like when I'm at my girlfriend's house, it'd be like her or like her mom or like her sister would start yelling, and there's really nowhere to go. So I would just one time actually I really pissed her off. I just insulted them. I was like, "You both are just fucking horrible," and I walked off because they were arguing. It was really annoying me. And then she cried and she was like, "Oh my God, like why would you say that?" And I was like, "Well, don't argue." She's like, "You never take my side." I was like, "No one's taking my side, so why should I care?" And so I generally, when they're arguing, I try and avoid the situation. Unless I can't get out, then I make them stop.
I think you're an INFP. Just saying.
Well, earlier you said INFJ.
I changed my mind after I said it to INFP. That was the last one I said was INFP.
Well,
Why is that? Because I also don't feel like I've got a lot of FI either.
that doesn't sound very FI heavy. The scene you described, it sounds FI insensitive, which would be par for the course for an NTP. But the 9, I think you may be, yeah, I think you sound more like a 1 than a 9 to me. And if you were a 7, 1, 4, I think that would be absolutely consistent for ENTP. I think there was a point in my life I was probably a 7, 1, 4.
What do you call it? Isn't INFP linked to the avoidant personality disorder, though? Which would be 1, avoid conflict, which he described just now.
But that's not how INFPs love conflict. Are you serious?
I've got one of my friends who's an INFP. He said that he goes downtown all the time, but like just to get in like alley fights.
Audi fights?
Which really made alley fights. Like he'll like find people that just like want to fight out in the alley, which made me really think that he was like an extroverted sensor. But
I don't think. I think. I don't think that we should use him as an example of any type because that's a strange thing to do in general.
Well, no, I was just pointing out that he's an INFP. He's not necessarily avoiding conflict. He embraces it.
I don't think INFPs avoid conflict in general. I think they are actually quite dramatic. But they'll probably avoid it all afternoon and then get drunk and have a big fight. That's what I think
Would they
INFPs do.
would they cry before they yell, or would they yell and then cry?
They'd be doing them simultaneously.
Ah, that's a good answer.
I posted a link to a quiz that tells you what kind of love style you are.
Hmm.
My love style is sharing memes.
Is that similar to like attachment styles? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's an any joke right there. I mean, or
I didn't
could,
hear it.
but could be INFJ. I mean, I still haven't eliminated that possibility. I haven't spent any time hearing you talk or anything, Joseph, so I don't really know. Let's ask you a couple questions. I'll type your ass right now.
Oh, go for it.
Let's see. So you're in a room, and there's two people who are ladies. One of whom is very upset. The other one is comforting her to the right of you, and to the left of you there are two guys, and they're talking about their souped-up cars that they have outside, and they start to argue about that. Now, you've been tasked on this game show to solve one of these arguments, make peace with them, and you'll win $10,000. So you get to choose which fight you want to go solve, first of all, or which problem you
I
want
don't
to go
know,
solve.
Jack. I don't know anything about cars. I can change spark plugs and put some gas in it, but I'm definitely gonna go with the more. I'm gonna help the ladies as
Okay.
opposed to stalling arguing over cars. I think
Okay,
it's pretty
so
banal.
the guys move away. Now you got the two chicks there, and you go over there, and they say, "Oh, good, somebody's here. Maybe you can explain it to her." Marcia here. She is very upset because she blames Paul for killing her turtle, but Paul didn't know that he was supposed to give her the turtle the special vitamin supplements, and that this turtle needed those because she forgot to put it on the note. But she insists that she told him verbally, and he insists that he doesn't remember that. So we're trying to figure out who's to blame and who should be mad and all that kind of stuff. Can you help us solve this problem, young man?
Well, I'd say in this case that um, if she is being truthful about that she did at least verbally tell him, then I guess they're both a little at fault. Because if it was that important, she could have made it a note where he could have seen it later and remembered. But also, I feel like hearing something that's pretty important, so you wouldn't want to forget that. So I'd say they're both a little at fault here.
Okay, so the chick says that the turtle was worth $100, and she thinks that the guy should have to pay her $50. And the other chick's like, "Well, that seems fair." Now, not knowing what the guy's going to say yet, what do you say to that proposal of theirs?
At that point, I'd say when it comes to finances and stuff, they should probably figure that out on their own. But
We need your help, young man.
I,
We
I
don't
don't,
know.
I don't, I
You're
don't
the only
necessarily think
objective
that he
third
should
party.
pay it all.
Well, why
But at
not?
the
You said it
same
was
time,
partially his fault.
With that logic, yeah, it makes sense. How does he feel about having to pay $50 for the death of a turtle?
Well,
And paying $50
okay.
isn't going to bring it back.
So out he comes. It's Bob. He says,
Hey,
"Hell
Bob.
no, hell no, I'm not paying $50. Why should I have to pay? Because I don't even remember her telling me that."
Well, that was something that would, if she's being truthful about telling him, then he should have remembered because that's pretty important. Give my turtle this stuff or he will die. That's not really
Okay.
something that you should easily forget.
Well, Bob says, "Well, I don't think she's lying. I've known her for a long time. She's not a liar. But I'm not lying either. I don't remember her telling me."
Well, then I would revert back to the previous argument that he should have listened better and she should have made it more evident of the importance of the task.
So why should I have to pay $50 though? I was doing her a favor taking care of that turtle. I have no obligation to take care of that turtle beyond just my goodness of my heart in the first place. Well, you took on the responsibility, Bob. You took on that responsibility. Your job is to save that turtle's life. God damn it! You didn't even give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Who do you
That's a
side
tricky
with?
situation.
It's the answer. They say we'll go. We'll all go with your decision. The choices are: Bob has to pay $50, Bob has to pay $25, or Bob has to pay $0. You choose, Judge.
I I'd say that the best way for me to figure this out is to put myself in Bob's position because I know I forget things every now and then, even if they're important. So I feel like in my position, I would feel bad and want to do something to make up for it. So I'd say settle on 25 or 50. That's your guys' decision, but I think that Bob should make up for it in some way.
Do you pick 25 or do you pick 50? They're looking for you to pick.
Oh man! So she said the turtle was $100,
Yeah.
and she left the turtle in the hands of somebody else who was not a turtle pet owner. So it's more than half her fault. So I'd say 25. $25 is fair.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting response. Let me ask you this question. If I tell you that if next Friday you receive a postcard in the mail from me, then on Saturday you will receive a football from Santa Claus, and on Saturday you receive no football from Santa Claus, what can you conclude?
That Santa's not real,
Okay.
or that you didn't send me the postcard.
Right. Okay.
Did I get the postcard?
Well, that's not a piece of information I'm giving you. Can you conclude that you
Okay.
did not get the postcard if you did not get the football?
Well, if what you said is as concrete as I was supposed to believe it to be, then I would have gotten the football the day after I got the postcard. So I'm going to assume that I did not get the postcard.
That's right. You did not get the postcard. Um, it's interesting because it's a question I ask a lot of people, and it's surprising how few people answer it that way. Like they don't make the they don't make the logical move. So okay, let's see. If a friend of yours says she comes to you and says, I have had it with Steven, and she explains how she's taking all these measures against Steven, that she's going to cut him off completely. She's not going to talk to him anymore, and she's going to encourage her friends not to talk to him. And you find out that it's because he forgot her birthday, forgot to do anything about it at all, forgot to even say happy birthday. Well, what's your response to that?
I tell her she's being irrational because today's actually my mom's birthday, and I didn't remember until I saw something about Pearl Harbor and realized that my mom's birthday was also on Pearl Harbor Day. I forgot my mom's birthday, so I mean, people forget things. I'd say she's being completely irrational, telling other people to cut that person off too, just because they forgot a day.
Hmm. What if it was? What if it was her boyfriend of 2 years?
Mm. And she's still telling people to cut him off, and she's trying to cut him off as well.
She's saying that's the last straw. We've broken up. You violated my trust too many times.
Do I know how many other straws there have been?
He forgot anniversary. He forgot last year's birthday. He forgot Christmas, and he forgot Thanksgiving. And he forgot
Oh,
Arbor Day.
God.
Arbor Day is huge in her family. She loves trees.
Oh, man. Yeah, this guy's probably a vegetable then. He has no business. He's
No,
just
but
gonna be a money pit at this
he's
point.
great on non-holidays. He's great the rest of the time.
Then she should, if she likes him, besides other than forgetting stuff, then she can probably just try and get over it and be like, like he's great all the other times. There's more regular days than there are holidays that I acknowledge.
That's very
I
logical of her.
assume.
She's being very logical with her feelings. I'm glad to see. Um, you seem like an ENTP to me in terms of your response to these kind of questions. You're not very pro FI, although you are much more peacemaking in your general attitude, it seems to me, than I am. You're less antagonistic in your language than a lot of ENTPs. But let's see. You could be INFJ still, potentially. Um,
You wouldn't be the first person to say that.
uh, how good at you are managing the perceptions of others?
What do you mean by that?
Well, do you feel like when you're talking to people, are you more likely to tell stories or ask questions?
Um, it depends on what I'm trying to get out of the person. If it's just like a back and forth kind of conversation, then it's probably more stories. But like if I have an end game with this conversation, then it's going to be more questions. Um, yeah,
I mean, that's a super ENTP response.
yeah. Taylor asked me earlier that I told him that I'm probably just an ENTP with pretty strong FE, and he said, "Does that mean like more empathy or more more manipulation?" And I can only answer with yes, because I can. It depends on the person. If I need you to be manipulated, you will be.
How uh, how well do you improvise? If I were to say talk about dogs in three different ways, what would you be able to come up with three different ways of talking about dogs?
Um, Probably. You could do an essay, a song, and a haiku. Three different ways to talk about dogs.
That is three different ways to talk about dogs. Here's an example of a way to talk about dogs. The the manner in which dogs uh, get their food, the uh, pack dynamics of dogs in the wild, um, a personal story about one time when I ran into dogs. Those are all different ways to talk about dogs. Given those kind of ways to talk about dogs, how many other ways can you come up with?
Um, Different. What different dogs have been bred to create specific breeds? Another one would be. That's a really interesting question, actually. So yeah, different dogs that create different breeds. The origin of the dogs, not necessarily like breed wise, but like country, like where they're from. Um, and then my favorite breed. That one's probably the easiest.
Uh, let's see. Let me ask you some more any questions. All right, you're stuck in a room. Around the room, you've got some people who are sleeping on the floor. You woke up in this room in pajamas that you are not your pajamas. You remember going to bed as normal last night, but somehow you're waking up in this strange room. You don't remember being transported or anything unusual happening. You just remember going to bed as usual. You wake up in this weird room. There are other people sleeping around you. They're also in the same kind of pajamas. And there's very little light in the room, but you can see there's a window on one side of the room. There's a dresser or drawers on the other side of the room. There's a door on the other side of the room, and there's a they say window, dresser, drawers, and door, and there's oh, and then the other option is you got sleeping people you could wake up. What do you want to do when you first wake up? Walk me through the process of getting yourself out of the situation or figuring it out.
Okay, my first question is going to be, do I know these people?
No, they're strangers.
No. I'm
All
trying the
different age,
door.
all different demographics. A mix. There's
Yeah,
15. There's like 10 other people there. Let's say.
I'm gonna try the door quietly.
All right, so you go over to the door. There's no knob on the inside of the door. There's a little thin crack. You could probably pull it out, but you can't fit your fingers underneath the crack because it's so thin.
Okay. How high is the window?
Too high for you to climb up to, but there's some like stuff you see over in the corner that maybe you can move and stack up. You're not sure. You have to go over there and investigate it.
Well, I'm gonna You said there were dresser drawers, so I'm gonna stack those.
Okay, so do you want to move the
See if
drawers over to the window?
yeah.
If you do that, you're going to have a little bit of a problem because there's some people who are sleeping in between you and the window and the dresser drawers. So and it's kind of heavy, and it probably wakes some people up, or you could wake up somebody to help you carry it, or you're not really sure what to do about it.
Hmm. Oh man, I don't know any of these people. I have no reason to trust them. But at the same time, I feel like if I wake up in a place like this, I have no idea where I'm at or who these people are. I'm all in the same pajamas. Then it's probably the same situation for them. They don't know why they're here. So I'd at least wake like one or two people up and ask them if they know what's going on.
What demographic do you want to wake up? You can pick age, gender, anything you want.
Uh, I'm probably just gonna wake up one or two males, mainly because it's easier for me to talk to men that I don't know than
How
it is for me to
old?
talk to women I don't know.
How old do you want the first male you wake up to be?
A little bit older than me,
Like 25?
25 to like 35, yeah.
All right, so you get this 30-year-old guy. He's like, oh, what the hell's going on here? What do you want to tell him? He's groggy.
Uh, you're like, I don't know where I'm at. I assume you don't either, since we're all here in the same situation. The door over there doesn't work. This window's pretty high, and we can get that dresser over there, but I'm gonna need your help 'cause it's pretty heavy.
All right, let's move that shit. So you guys move it over there. You climb up and you look out the window, and you're in a high tower. You can see that it's like a brick-sided wall. The window opens, but there's no way to climb down without falling to your death.
Huh. Well, um, is there anything to break the glass with?
You don't have to break it; it opens.
No, no, I know. I was gonna see if I could use
Oh yeah, you
a
could break the
bigger shard,
glass.
get a bigger shard to fit under the door, and see if I can angle it the right way to pull the door open.
That's very clever. Okay, I think you're an ENTP, is what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the reason I think you're probably an ENTP is you dove right into shit. You didn't you didn't spend a lot of time musing over the situation and trying to come up with the best course of action, which a lot of NI people will do. And NE people tend to just dive right in. And you're very TI about things. So that leads me to think you're an ENTP. But you are a rather peaceable seeming one, although I haven't seen you in action. I mean, I don't know. Maybe when if the right kind of conflict comes around you, we don't really necessarily self-assess very well, ENTPs. So if you are an ENTP, you may be not assessing your own peaceableness very well. I might have self-identified peaceable sometimes when I'm really not very peaceable, you know?
Yeah, it takes a lot to get me angry. Like, a lot.
Hmm. So why do you suppose that is? Do you have any explanation for how you came to be not very angry?
Dealing with a lot of shit at a really young age, probably.
Do you feel like you were always the adult in your family?
Uh, no, but I feel like I had as much pull as the adults did when it came to family members. Like, I wasn't necessarily viewed as an adult, but I could persuade people in the family to take in my point of view and my stance as if I were one of them.
Hmm.
But I wasn't ever really very authoritative as an adult would be.
That's fairly INFJ-ish. That's a typical story for an INFJ. Is they feel as though they were overburdened with adult concerns when they were young. It's a common story amongst them, and
I had to grow up really young.
that's common. ENTPs, and the thing is, INFJs will often display as ENTPs in a lot of ways. We're very similar in our displays some of the time, and so it's I mean it's hard to say what you are exactly. The seven is consistent with both types, both types will have a 7 in their mix, no problem. And I mean, that's the thing. Well, Enneagram wise, we're similar too. That's why we're similar, INFJs and ENTPs. But the difference will generally, like for example, you said you've been watching this for a long time. Did you know about this room and not participate in it for a while before and sort of check it out from afar before you decided to jump in, or did you just jump in
I've
when you found
actually
out about it?
I've known about the room for a while, but then I opened Taylor had messaged me and was like, "Are you ever gonna join?" I'm like, I don't have anything else to do tonight, so I might as well.
Really
So I've known about the group for a while. I've actually I didn't know Taylor, but we followed each other on social media since before I actually started watching this channel.
really interesting.
Yeah, which is weird because one day he was like, "Hey, do you watch Talking with Famous People?" Or he said, "Do you know what that is?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've watched it for a while now." And he's like, "You should go look at the videos. I'm in a few of them." I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." And then he asked if I've ever been in the room, and I told him no, and he gave me a link, and I didn't do anything with the link
Interesting.
until tonight, and that was that was like a month and a half, almost 2 months ago.
So what made you decide to wait?
Uh, I didn't feel like I wasn't knowing, I didn't know what to expect coming into it, and at the time, I I was dealing with a lot more anxiety and things like that. A lot of things had recently just changed in my life. I moved to a different area. I moved out of town. I was away from a lot of friends. So I was trying to cope with like feeling so alone, but at the same time, I was avoiding interaction with people. But I'm getting better at dealing with that now, so it's easier for me to want to do things like this.
Hmm.
So I get bad anxiety when I'm alone for too long,
You give
which
me
is
you're
also
giving me
rough because I'm
answers
on that
on
channel.
you're giving me answers on both sides of the ledger here. I can't decide between INFJ and ENTP. I think you're one or the other. The last answer, you get bad anxiety when you're alone for too long. That's straight up ENTP. We all get fussy as shit when we're by ourselves for too long.
Oh yeah.
I get I get emotional sometimes. I'll sit there and just like listen to, I wouldn't say like sad like boohoo fi sad, but more like an existential dealing with humanity as a whole kind of sad kind of music.
Yeah, you big picture shit. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
that sounds ENTP as well. Um, but again, we do share a lot of similarities with INFJs. It's hard to say. I'd say have you tested on the test ENTP on like online tests
Hmm.
and shit?
I mean, yeah, the first time I ever took one, I got INTP, then I got ENFP, and then for a while I was pretty sure I was an ENFJ. The only types I'd never thought I was any of the SJs, and I never thought I was an ENTJ. But I have entertained the thought of being all the other ones at one point or another, and then settled on ENTP like a year and a half ago.
Huh.
But then every now and then something will pop in my head, be like, "Oh, well, you might be this," and I'm like, "Well, it's not that important, so like, quit worrying about it."
How's your SI? How's your? Do you go outside to get a jacket? I mean, but we're not good. They're not good at it either. It's not a really good distinction, but it helps. Might help a little bit.
Um, Only if I have been previously made aware of the weather. If I know that it's going to be cold, or if I know that it's going to be hot. I mean, generally, I'm usually like a t-shirt and jeans kind of person with like a light hoodie. So that's pretty much what I wear all the time, unless it's excruciatingly hot.
Do
Or like
you?
earlier tonight when I went out to get some food, I was wearing a big jacket because it was snowing.
Would you like a woman to take care of your schedules and stuff?
That's a hard one because I'm not the best at scheduling, but I also don't like to feel like somebody else is handling things for me when I don't want them to. So unless if I could, is the best way to put it is I could handle that. I would be okay with that in some cases. I don't think necessarily right now I'd be particularly okay with, but down the road, that's probably something that I would be fine with.
Well, I don't know. Whatever the answer is whatever the answer is. You be the judge. And that's another exciting episode of Talking with Famous People.